Hello, and welcome to Guidance for Better Life. My guest today is a grown-up, and her name is Molly Comfort, but she had a strong desire when she was a child to sit at the grown-up table. I think we can all relate to that, because she had a very interesting grandmother, and she wanted to carry on an adult conversation. But being a child, she never had a chance to sit at the grown-up table. But then with God, everything's possible. So I hope you stay tuned today.
Hello.
Hey, Molly, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
This is a neat story. Who doesn't like well, some may not like grandmas. I haven't had a live grandma in a long time, but I miss my grandmas even now. Tell us just a little bit about your grandmother. There was a real strong desire to sit at the grown-up table with the older kids. Why was the desire so strong?
Well, she was a really fascinating woman. Her name was Denny.
Denny?
And she was the only child of a minister. And just a very interesting lady. She had lots of interests in her life, art, history, traveling, and just how she carried herself. I was just fascinated with her from a young age.
So, based on your story, you were too young to be with the other kids at the grown-up table.
Yeah, I was.
I think we could all relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
Even when our grandkids were small, mine, Lynn and I, even with a large family and a big table, we had to put the little grandkids at a small table. Now they're sitting at the adult table and carrying on an adult conversation, mostly.
Yeah.
So I can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people can. But so you found her fascinating in your story, really looked up to her and the things, her background and topics and all that. But you didn't get a chance to. She passed away when you were still too young.
I was around 14 when she passed away.
And you were still at the kid table?
Well, I was the youngest of cousins. So there was, some of my cousins were already adults. Okay. And then my older siblings would sit and talk to her. And they had similar interests as her, art and history. And my sister was in college. So they could carry on different conversations than I was able to.
I pictured you still being 4 or 5. So even at 14, you were the bottom of the pecking order.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I get that now. So God made, somehow when she passed, that opportunity look like it was lost.
It did.
But with God, we know anything's possible. So would you share that, please?
Sure. So around 10 years after she passed, I was in my mid-20s, I had a dream with her. And it had not been a conscious prayer of mine to have a dream with her. I hadn't asked for it. But God knew it was an unspoken prayer in my heart to see her and have an adult conversation with her and share interest.
So even though you'd kind of forgot about it, you feel God remembered your strong desire as a child to sit with the grown-ups and talk to your grandma.
And talk to her heart to heart as an adult. In the dream, it was very simple. She looked young and healthy in her prime and was just radiating. She'd been swimming a lot for exercise and still had interests.
Okay.
We were talking about art, and she was doing some knitting and sewing, which I hadn't known her to do as I knew her in her body.
Okay.
So that showed to me that she was still growing and learning, but we just talked about art, and there were some paintings in the room we were talking about and discussing with each other. It was a very simple dream, but it really touched me because I felt like God had seen this desire in my heart to just communicate with my grandmother as an adult. And be able to relate to her.
You felt, even though you kind of forgot, God remembered and gave you, would you call it a do-over, basically?
I do feel like it was that, yeah.
Very cool.
It was really neat experience.
So did it scratch some itch that was never scratched from your childhood?
It did. It allowed me to just relate to her one-on-one and just share just share being with her, and that was really precious.
I know with my own, I've got 6 grandchildren, and you know them. They play with your kids and all. But when they're all together, it's a joy to be around them together. But when I talk to them one-on-one, it's a whole nother world. They talk like adults. They're very interesting to talk to, very smart. But when they're all together, they're kind of kids. But when they're one-on-one, they're young adults, young ladies. So I can relate to that as the older person.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you'd like to share?
It might have been an unspoken prayer for her too, as well, for me to be able to relate to her as an adult.
Okay.
For her to see me as an adult
As a
and sort of
grown-up?
as a
Yeah.
grown up, what my interests were, because we shared some similar ones with
Okay.
traveling and
And art
art.
and some other stuff.
Yeah.
Neat.
That was really special.
So you feel like God gave you a do-over.
He did.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Why would he do that for you?
Because he loves me. And
He does.
even those little unspoken prayers, God hears them.
Yeah. Did it feel, I think in your story is in one of our books that's on my author page on Amazon, and there's a link below. Visit Loved Ones in Heaven. I think there's 37 stories in here of people's experiences similar to yours. I think your story's in here.
Mm-hmm.
About having a do-over with loved ones once they passed. And God has the ability to, like in your case, to bring you and your grandmother together and take care of those little undone things that never quite got finished in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Scratch those little itches.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing this today.
Thank you very much.
And I hope this show today and Molly's sharing let you know there's with God everything's possible. And even though when people pass on you think that's it, if there's love there and a connection there, and if you pray and pay attention, God can sometimes and will sometimes give you another do-over. And I hope this show showed you something else maybe you didn't know of and inspired you to look to God with it, because anything's possible. Thank you very much for watching.